Good morning, everyone. Good morning. So today we are going to start with the remaining the topics, whatever is there in software testing. So up to till now, what we have studied, the introduction about software testing, and what are the different types of software testing with respect to plan-driven approach, and what are the stages of software testing, the process in development activities. So we have studied the many the several types of testing, and in the previous class we have covered the program testing and testing the process goals, and the input output model is covered, verification versus validation is over. So these all the topics already we have covered in the last class, stages of testing and development testing. And there are mainly three types in the stages of testing. One is a development testing, that is what we have covered in the last class. Under that development testing, we have studied unit testing and partition, equivalence partition process. Under that particular process, we have studied the several problems associated with that, and component testing, system testing. With respect to system testing, we have covered a ATM example. So these are the topics what we have covered in the last class. So in the today's class, we are going to start the end of the chapter, that is what we call release testing, and test-driven development is also over, and today we are going to start with release testing and see whatever the testing types what we have studied and what we have discussed up to till now. So these all are under plan-driven approach. But there are two approaches in software development process. One is plan-driven approach and another one is agile approach. So, and we have studied agile method applicability in the second unit or third unit, and where agile method is more suitable for what type of applications, what is the size of agile, and what is the procedural or operational activity, what it is going to carry out in agile method. So these all the topics we have covered. But the question is, what type of testing methodology is suitable for agile approach? So agile approach is customer involvement is very important. It is an incremental development, and every product is going to release in terms of version, or what we call version management. Every developer is going to produce in terms of iterations. So every iteration we are going to define some particular lifetime, and under that lifetime the peoples, they are going to gather in terms of teams. Every team is responsible for conducting some of the activities. Maybe some team only responsible for testing, some team is responsible for creating the back end, some team they are assigned for creating the front end. So like that, GUI some team. So like that, everybody's team's role is different. So they are going to manage their assigned work. At the end of the day, they are going to communicate with each other. They are going to gather their collective work. All the teams, they are going to gather and they are going to produce a relevant the work, whatever they are going to carry out in their particular specified time. So these type of the working practices are applied, or they are going to use in the agile methodology when they are going to develop anything, maybe college management, library management system, e-commerce application, whatever. There are the plenty of applications they are going to carry out under agile approach. So for agile approach, which type of testing is relevant? Okay, whether for the plan driven, the manual method is a very good approach, because the plan driven, it is everything should be planned before itself. Okay, whenever they are going to, before going to start any one development activity, first they are going to plan. So what are the different things we are going to carry out in the future, in the further days? So that everything should be planned, and even the test cases, there is plenty of time is available in the plan driven approach. So easily they can carry out the testing by using the what we called manual method, the manual approach. Manually they are going to create some test cases, they are going to concern and mathematically what it is going to found. So that is very relevant. But with respect to agile method, the plan driven approach, or for agile approach, the what we called manual method is more time consuming, and it is not suitable for agile type, because it is very fast. Customer involvement is there, they are going to rapid production, because there are the requirements are going to change in business environment. So in the great extent, there is a drastic changes of requirement is with respect to agile method. That's why we have to automate the things, automate the test data, whatever is there. First, for example, if we are going to create a software for a college, first we have to simulate the data, what type of data is we are going to predict, and what is the amount of data is going to transfer a day by day, or and according to the one semester. That much of amount data, before going to start development, we have to simulate it, and we are going to check whether that particular test cases are correct or not. So this is what the importance of automated testing or in agile approach. So today we are going to start with these release testing and system requirement testing. So we are going to study under the heading of agile approach. And so here this first one is we are going to study about release testing. So the release testing is the process of testing particular release of the system that is intended for use outside the development team. It is the process of testing the particular release of the system. What may be the release? Maybe whatever the product you can take. First, it is going to produce in terms of releases, in terms of versions. That is what we call release testing, is the process of testing a particular release of the system that is intended for use outside the development team. Whenever you want to explain, you want to communicate with about that particular product, the releases are going to help you. For example, whenever the development work is going to started, but what we are going to do after completion of one particular phase, you are going to release that particular work, whatever is going to carry out. So that way we are going to put in the hands of customer. They are going to evaluate whether all the requirements what they are specified, whether it is covered or not. This is what we called a release system, release testing. It is mainly helpful for the supplier of the system, those who are going to take out the business ventures. They can easily communicate with the clients, because there are plenty of the clients are dependable on one particular the product. You can take the mobile. There are plenty of customers they are going to expect, because according to the preliminary stage itself, initial stage itself, they are going to define their particular requirements. According to the requirements, they are going to expect what they are going to expect some of the facilities or requirements, whether it is covered or not. So that's why every product is going to release in terms of the different versions. That is what we call the primary goal of the release testing is to convince the supplier of the system that is good enough for use. First, they have to ensure, they have to come to the confidence, yes, whatever the product what it is going to made the assigned developer, whether it is correct or not, whether it meets all the functional and non-functional requirements or not. Whatever the requirements what they are going to expect in that particular release. Release means it is in terms of functionality. What functionality is going to define in that particular release, like we are going to take a lifetime, that will be covered or not. And release testing therefore has to show that the system deliver its specified functionality and maybe it is the performance. For example, you can take the performance metrics. I think you have studied in the requirement engineering chapter, maybe the metrics like speed, transactions per second, maybe robustness, maybe reliability. So these are what we call some of the emergent properties of the product or the system. Release testing usually it is a black box testing process where tests are only derived from the system specification. This is a very important. Release testing, there are two approaches are there in the testing process. One is black box testing, another one is white box testing. Then what is the meaning of black box testing? Depending on the functionality, we are going to check whether the particular product is meet its requirements or not. Maybe you can take a Google search engine. What is their functionality? The Google search engine functionality is a searching process. Just we are going to concentrate on their functionality, whether it is going to search properly or not. Irrespective of their particular, the code, program, source code, developer, it is irrelevant for black box testing. Black box testing is going to carry out only in terms of their functionality. What inputs we are going to provide and what results or what outputs it is going to produce. So based on these 2 points, one is with respect to their functionality and depending on their input and output, we people are going to check that particular the product stability. That's why what we are going to use a black box testing process. And where tests are only derived from the system specification, not with respect to end user. End user expectations are different. Only we are going to carry out the system developers initially what particular specifications they have made. For example, college software you can take whenever they are going to produce or whenever they are going to manufacture one particular college product, whenever they are going to first develop, first they are going to specify, okay, what is the requirements we are going to provide for the attendance management system, examination system, some of the cultural activities. So what particular memories we are going to allocate, and it is depending on the number of students which they are going to study in that particular college, number of faculties and their size of the research particular the perimeter. So these all the things we are going to take while considering system specification. System specification means it is the programmer specification. So what particular language they are going to use, but not source code. So that is what we called. So with respect to the functionality of the system, the release testing is going to depend. And the next is the release testing. It is also a form of system testing. So system testing is nothing but we are going to check the interaction interface in between the several components. What is their interaction? But here also release system is going to communicate from one release to another release, because product is going to form number of versions. Whether all the versions they are going to properly combined or not, or they are going, what is their communication, what particular results which are going to arrive from one version to another version. So these form of all the probabilities we are going to check by using release testing. Release testing is the form of system testing. There are two important differences. There is no separate team here in release testing. Whatever the team is going to apply for the developer and tester, they are going to combine, they are going to carry out in the parallel. Okay. For example, if one requirement is fulfilled, it is developed, again, immediately it is going to check, it is going to test it. So that is what we called test before development. Before going to the development process, first we are going to take some of the requirements. That's why what we called it is a black box testing approach. So those requirements are going to check by the respective testers. Okay. For example, if one product is there, for that particular product, if they want to check the requirements, first they are going to check whether that particular requirements are going to easily we can implement or not. If any anomalies or any problems arises, initially they are going to correct those particular requirements. So that's why what we called there is no separate team here. Okay, all the teams they are going to combine, the tester and developer, they are going to work, they are going to coordinate their particular steps with respect to one particular product. System testing is concentrates on only bugs in the product. what particular the bugs or the problems associated, their interactions. Okay, only with respect to the bugs means errors. What errors which are going to arise when they are going to communicate with each other. Only that kind of errors or where that kind of bugs we are going to find out by using system testing. But the release testing is completely concentrates on validation. How to validate one particular system from one version to one stages to another stages. How we are going to validate that particular product with respect to the functional requirements and non-functional requirements. So these all the aspects we are going to check in the validation testing. That is what defect testing is the different. Only we are going to check that particular product is correctly working or not. But in validation testing, we are going to concentrate and we are going to cover whatever the product what we have done, whether it meets all the requirements which are defined in the requirement specification or requirement document or not. So this is what we call the distinction between system testing and release testing. Both the goals are same. The release testing is the part of the system testing, but even though system testing is completely concentrate on the bugs of the one of the particular application or the component, in parallel the release testing is completely, it is going to concentrate on validation testing. So we have to validate what things were already designed. So those designed components, whether it meets all the functional and non-functional requirements or not properly. So these all the things we have to mandatorily check to satisfy the customer end users, the satisfactions, their needs. So this is what we call the release testing and system testing. There are difference in between release testing and system testing. Release testing is the form of the system testing, but even it has some differentiation, some distinctions. Only with respect to the team coordination, with respect to the approach where they are going to capture actually while testing, whether they are going to focus on the defects in the defects or only the bugs, or also they are going to validate the system one of the one, because it is going to release system. The name itself it indicates release. We have to check the release and their particular requirements and whether it is one-to-one correspondently they are correct or not. So this is what the distinction between system testing and release testing. So under release testing there are two types. One is requirement based testing. The second one is scenario based testing. Requirement based testing, scenario based testing. So these are the different two types of the testing methods what we are going to use under the release testing. So these are the very important point of the two testing methods like requirement based testing, scenario based testing. So these are the two important point of white box and black box approaches. When you take plan driven approach and agile approach, for plan driven requirements are very important. Initially when requirements are deviates, the overall plan will be scatter, okay, and there for the financial purpose, for the budget purpose, time, everything is going to waste, because it is very difficult to deviate the plans. But once you are going to set up, it is very difficult to change the plans. So that's why the requirement based testing is also very important type of testing. Requirement based testing involves examining each requirement and developing a test for it. And requirement based testing is a general principle of good requirement engineering practice. So this is what we call the software engineering. The first phase is the requirement engineering, and one of the good practice, what we call the general principle of good requirement engineering, is the requirement should be testable, and a test can be designed for that particular requirement. Every requirement we have to check, because the requirements are the initial stages for the further development activities or implementation. You can take design. So that's why we are going to check the problem. You can take a simple C programming language. First we are going to check the algorithm, whatever it contains the requirement. Those requirements we are going to check. You can take a triangle problem, okay. How to understand the basic requirements in the programming environment. For example, whenever you are going to form a triangle, the sum of the sides of the two sides should be less than or less than the third side. That requirement we have to fulfill, then triangle is possible, okay. Once the triangle is possible, next we are going to check what type of triangle, the second requirement. A salient is the one type of requirement. Second one is isosceles. Third one is equilateral. So based on what requirements we are going to conclude, if the two sides are equal, it is a isosceles triangle. If the three sides are unequal, but they are going to satisfy the triangle rule, then what we call salient triangle. If all the three sides are equal, they are going to satisfy the triangle rule, then obviously what we call it is a equilateral triangle. Otherwise, not a triangle. So there are three sides. First, whenever you want to form the triangle, there are three sides should be possible. For those sides, the sum of the two sides should be less than third side. That is the second requirement. Third requirement, again it is going to derive among the three possibilities. One is if the two sides are equal, it is isosceles. Three sides are equal, it is equilateral. If all the three sides are unequal, what we call it is a salient. So like that, based on these requirements, we are going to write a triangle problem. It is a very simple. So you can implement, implement for the big system. Whenever you want to develop a attendance management system for the college, what requirements are possible? First, number of students. What is the attendance, the rules, what it is going to govern by the college or administration, okay, and what type of attendance management system they are going to use in that particular college. If there is a 85% of the attendance should be, it should be minimum for eligible for the further activities, then you have to mandatorily add in your program, okay, and so like that, for every everything we are going to correctly gather all the requirements. The process, that is what we call the requirement engineering, the process. And so we'll take some product level. So what triangle problem, what we have studied, it is a basic level to understand what exactly the meaning of requirement for successful program for one particular product, what things mandatorily it is going to achieve. So we'll take a realistic example, okay, and it is also very important the point of view for the exam. It is a very important thing, so I have to just concentrate. There is a problem statement they have given. So here the question is how to identify the proper requirements. That is the question. Requirement engineering is the practice. We are going to use the requirements as the collection of one of the sets. For every requirement, there are possible test cases how we are going to produce. For example, the requirement of the one particular the attendance management system. So what that particular derived set of test cases are possible for one particular requirement. So please concentrate, and this is what there is one scenario they have given for the examination section. Analyze the given requirement for elective assignment by the Google form issued by a department, and design test cases for the same by using requirement based testing. So now you are in the 4th semester, okay. In the next year you are going to switch to the 6th semester. There is a possibility of electing elective subjects. You are going to choose some of the elective subjects, and the thing is here, analyze the given requirement for the elective assignment by the Google form issued by department. The Google form is issued to all the students. And there are some of the in Google form they are going to give the list of subjects. And you are going to prefer which subject you are going to opt to study for the next semester. That is what one of the requirements. And design test cases for the same, and we are going to design the test cases for the same by using requirement based testing. And this is the more clearly what they have given. For what particular scenario or what particular problem you are going to write the requirement test cases. For the 6th semester students of this computer science department, department needs to assign elective subject based on students' previous semester academic performance in the subject of relative domain. Yes, whenever you are going to opt to one particular elective subject, that particular subject is allocated based on the previous semester performance in the relative domain. For example, we'll take, if you want to choose machine learning, okay, in data science, what is the student's performance in the previous semester? That we have to take. If it is a very up to the average, that subject is allocated to you. Otherwise, it is denied. If you are very poor in the data science, that particular subject is going to held up for allocation. One thing. We'll take another domain like network security. If you are very good in the computer network, in the network security domain, okay, and we are going to check your particular the previous year performance in terms of the results in your particular academic activities, okay, whether it is up to the extent that particular subject is going to assign to you. Otherwise, that particular warning message it is going to produce. So that's why. If the student has performed less in the particular domain, maybe it is a domain means it is a security, maybe it is a programming domain, maybe it is some of the machine learning applications, network security applications, network applications and security applications. So all the domains collectively, all the domains will be gathered at the one particular site. The particular subject belongs to one particular domain. So that is what the criteria. If the student has performed less in the particular domain, the allocation of that particular subject in the relative domain shall produce the warning message being issued to the head of the department. If HOD chooses to ignore the warning, then HOD has to provide valid reasons why that particular warning has been ignored. This is what the particular scenario for the college software environment. So here one thing is, first they are going to create a Google form. It should be circulated to all the students. In that particular, what requirements we are going to follow. First, the students needs to opt one of the elective subjects of their interest of their particular domain. But there is a restriction, one requirement. What constraints, what restrictions we are going to follow? There is previous academic semester result. If it is satisfactory, then only subject will be assigned to the student. Otherwise, it will produce warning message. Again, it is the one particular requirement. And if the HOD chooses to ignore the warning, when the warning is there, if HOD is going to allow, then the HOD has to provide some valid reasons. Then again, that particular warning message is going to hide, and it is going to accept the student request, whatever they are requested. So this is what the scenario. For this particular thing, how to write the requirement test cases? On what particular priorities we are going to design the test cases? So I think you people are studying what exactly the meaning of test cases in unit testing, development testing, component testing. Test cases are nothing but it is a piece of data from the plenty amount of data. We are going to take one particular slice. That is what we call test cases. So these are the data samples. Okay, and from the 300 students we are going to take what possibilities are maybe arises, for example. So that is what collectively we are going to write requirement based test cases. First, so these are the requirement test cases. So these are the solution for the previous problem statement. So what are the things, what all the things we are going to check here? First, set up the student record with their previous semester. First, what thing we are going to do? We are going to mandatorily do here. First, we are going to set up the software which contains previous semester results, allocate the subjects according to his previous performance in the last semester, check that the warning message is not issued by the system. This is for the normal use. Okay, for example, if the student is very good in one particular domain and whatever he has opted, if he is good, you assign it, and it should not issued by the system. For example, you can take a ATM example. Per day, 40,000 you can debit. If you are going to debit 39,000, there is no need to give you warning message. Okay, if you are going to opt for the 35,000, even though it is showing warning message, means there is something wrong. There is something wrong in the programming. So that kind of things we are going to check for the normal use. Okay, not for the exceptions. System exceptions is the second kind. For the normal case of reason, normal flow of the program, whenever you execute that, it should not issue one particular warning message. And set up the student record with the poor performance. Then allocate the subject to that student is even worst in that domain. Then check that the warning is issued by the system or not. It is for the exception. For wrong inputs, for example, if I am very poor in the one of the domain, a student is very poor in the one of the domain, even though he is opted, even though we are going to give the input to the system, again, irrespective, without giving the warning, it will take that particular input. Then the system is not working properly. There is one requirement is failed. So that's why we are going to check all the requirements, whether the first requirement, whether it is accepted or not. Okay, the first requirement is with respect to normal flow of the program. Second one is with respect to exceptions. Okay, for the input validation. So that's why for every program we are going to check from all the perspectives, the user inputs and what outputs it is going to produce. For example, whether it is going to take all the things correctly or not. Even though inputs are correct, sometimes it is going to produce wrong result. Sometimes inputs are incorrect, even though it is going to give the output. So these all the things we are going to check by using first two requirements. First one is inputs are correct and it is a normal use. Second one is inputs are correct even though it is going to accept. So these kind of requirements we are going to check. Next, third requirement, set up the student record in which he has performed good in more than 2-3 subjects. What happened? If he is very good in more than 3 subjects, that time it is very confusing for the system which subject we have to take. Again, we are going to proper comparison, proper calculations we are going to produce one of the subject and with proper warning message. If student is worst in more than 2 subjects, check the 2 warnings are correctly issued or not. First, maybe he want to app security subject, he is very poor in that particular domain, again it should be rejected. If you want to choose a machine learning, he is bad in data science, again it is going to give the 2 warning messages. That particular warning message producing the process, what we called, that should be a properly okay, inherent in the program or not. That we are going to check. Subject allocation that issue a warning and overrule that the warning. So these also we are going to check. So these 5 requirement test cases are very important for the programmer point of view. It is one of the example we are going to adopt it for college management system, that is facilitated elective subject allocation. And so this is a very important that problem for your final year the perspective. Maybe some similar kind of problems maybe appear in your exam. So you have to, for the given requirements engineering here, for the given problem statement, you need to write all the requirement test cases. Whether so these requirements, it should cover all the requirements which are specified by the programmer as well as end user, whether it is satisfied or not, whether the system is how it is going to respond in various situations, in various scenarios. So these, for all the possibilities, possible inputs we are going to check, and corresponding output we are going to check. And for every requirement, there should be a corresponding one test cases we are going to design. That is what the rule, what we are going to, the protocol for designing the requirement engineering test cases. Right, for example, for this particular requirement test cases, this is with respect to normal case, this is with respect to exception case, this is with respect to multiple subjects, this is with respect to worst conditions, this is with respect to the rules whatever it is mandated by the head of the department. So like that. So for every requirement there are lot of possibilities, lot of test cases may be possible. This is the first type, requirement based testing. Second one is scenario based testing. So this is also one of the second method under the release testing. So this is up to till now what we have studied, the requirement based engineering process. Based on that we are going to design the requirement testing. So next we are going to study about scenario based testing. And scenario means in agile approach it is completely depending on the scenarios. Scenarios are nothing but, so these are the narrative stories. Those stories reflect what exactly the system, what is the real system, okay. The programmer, so I am the developer for example, okay. As a developer, whenever I am going to create whatever the environment, it is not exactly the realistic. That is what the question, okay. For example, the correctly he has to simulate. As a developer, I should be ready to simulate all the things I have to automate in the correctly, whether it should correctly matches the real world or not. For example, if I am going to develop the college website for the one particular college, first I want to create that particular environment in my particular working area. That is what the question is behind with respect to the scenario testing. Scenario is nothing but the working flow of one particular area. For example, if I am going to develop a software for the college, first I need to go and to the college I want to meet, and first I need to study what activities maybe day by day they are going to conduct, not unofficial, official activities. Okay, if I am going to create a website for the college, first I need to go and meet to the college, and what is the day by day the working phenomenon, what practices they are going to manage, what practices they are going to maintain, and what is their official structure, how many official staff they are going to work, what is the number of lectures, what is the number of students, how many departments are there, and what is the number of students that belongs to one particular department, what is the number of subjects, what is their workload, and what is their examination process, and what is their research process. So these all the things mandatorily we have to look it, and we are going to go and we are going to club into their day by day activities. Then we'll come to know what things we are going to implement, what design we are going to produce. So according to that particular structure, we are going to easily imagine, okay, so this is the college and this is the software. In that particular software, what requirements were, what test cases or what requirements we are going to produce. This is what we call scenarios, the working flow of scenarios. We can take a mobile example. Okay, as a customer, what things we are, how we are going to deal with the one particular mobile device, and what things it may happen. So like that. So this is what we call scenario. And scenario is testing is an approach to release testing. Scenario is a typical scenario of the use. These to develop the test cases for the system, and it is a story based testing depending on the stories. Right. First, it is a very important approach for your XP. Means it is a extreme programming approach. In extreme programming approach, first all the stories which are going to produce as the scenarios. those scenarios are okay, it will go to the particular team. Okay, depending on the scenarios, depending on the activities, they are going to produce test cases. They are producing the requirements. After those requirements, this is what we call a translation scenario. What we call first, initially they are scenarios. These scenarios are going to translate in terms of requirements. These for these requirements we are going to design test cases. This is what the normal phenomenon which is going to taken care by designing the test cases. First we are going to properly observe the scenarios. For those scenarios, what requirements are possible? For those requirements, what test cases we are going to conduct? So this is what 3 steps which are going to carry out. For example, you can take any college website. First we are going to design the scenarios. What scenarios may be happen? Okay, and what attendance management system, what day by day activities, what it is going to carry out in the real world system, that we are going to analyze. Based on these scenarios, we are going to write the requirement. For the scenario 1, what is the requirement 1? For example, attendance management system. First, what we are going to check? We are going to check the authentication system, whether the proper password and username is given or not. And next, what we are going to check? We are going to check student records, whether it is properly all the students' details or properly we are going to store stored in the database or not. Next, what is the USN of the students, and what is the attendance management system, whether they are going to maintain 85% or not. So these all the things we are going to check by using requirement engineering process. After that, test cases we are going to write for all these scenarios. Scenario is going to divided among tasks. Okay, once the scenario is given to the developer, first he is going to analyze, the group of team, they are going to analyze that particular scenario. Based on that, those scenarios is going to derived among the group of requirements. For those requirements, we are going to design the test cases. So this is what the scenarios are translated into the requirements. Requirements are going to translate it into the test cases. For example, in our textbook, they have given one of the example. It is a very, I think some of the times we are going to use this particular, the mental health care for patient management systems. They are writing, this is a scenario. Scenario is nothing but it is a narrative story. Okay, it is like a story. This story will help you to design the requirements. From this particular story, you will come to know what requirements are possible for this particular working environment. For example, Kate is a nurse, and just briefly I will tell you the story. Kate is a nurse. He specializes in mental health care. Maybe he is one of the working colleague to their particular. Okay, he is one of the working nurse, and one of her responsibilities is to visit the patient at a home to check that their treatment is effective or not. First thing. One a day, she is going to visit some particular home. Kate logs into that particular hospital website, uses it to print her schedule of the home visit. Whenever she wants to schedule, first she is going to visit her particular call sheet, and along with the summary information about the patient, what they are going to visit. She requests that the record for these patients to be downloaded to her laptop. She is prompted for the key phrase to encrypt the records on the laptop. The patient summary or records are very sensitive, security purpose. So they are securely, they are going to, secured by some of the encryption key and decryption key. And whenever any patient or any doctor they want to upload or they want to download, they have to produce some of the encryption key, whatever is facilitated by system. One of the patients, what she is going to visit, Jim, who is being treated with the medication for the depression. Jim feels that the medication is helping him, but believes that it has the side effect of keeping him awake at the night. So these are some of the problems it is what the narrative story. For this particular scenario, how to write the requirements, test cases. Okay, and this is what? First, we are going to check authentication by logging onto the system. Okay, mental health patient management system, what authentication process they are going to adopt. First, we are going to design. Okay, once it is designed, first we have to check whether username and password correctly it is going to accept or not. What particular the things they are going to use for the password protection. Next, downloading and uploading of the specified patient records to a laptop, whether it is secured manner or not. Because the information is a very sensitive which is stored in the laptop. Whenever you want to download that particular information, whether it should be proper authentication process we are going to use, and home visit scheduling, whether that particular scheduling is correctly it is formed or not. Okay, some of the scheduling activities, it should not conflict one another, that we are going to check. Encryption and decryption of the patient records on the mobile device, that is also whatever the app what we are going to download, whether it is properly support for your encryption and decryption or not. Record retrieval and modification, link with the medicine database, and that maintains side effect of the information, the system for call prompting. So these all the requirements we are going to produce. For example, the previous one is the scenario. For this particular scenario, we are going to write these test cases, requirements. So these are what collectively requirements and test cases. For every requirements, we are going to check these possibilities. First, we are going to check authentication process, downloading and uploading process, home scheduling process, encryption and decryption process, record retrieval process, links and with the medicines and the database, and there are also side effects. The system for call prompting. So these are some of the requirements and test cases which are given for the mental healthcare management system. Next one is, we'll come to the next part, that is what we called a performance testing. The performance testing is a very important thing, and once the system, and it is also one of the important testing methods we are going to use for agile approach. And in this particular system, and performance means the performance of the system, performance of the software. You can take performance of the ATM banking system. You can take the performance of mobile handset. So this is what all the real time example for your performance testing. Here the performance testing is very important. First, we are going to check number of transactions. If the number of transactions per second is only 300, we are going to check beyond the 300. Okay, how the system is going to respond. So this is what, for every software or every product, there is a maximum limit for every transaction. That particular number of transactions we are going to check. Okay, after exceeding number of transactions, how the system is going to behave, whether it is going to behave exactly or not. Okay, and how your particular software system is going to maintain, whether it is going to stable or not. That is what we call performance testing is going to do that. So it is very important for distributed applications like your network of computers, cloud, okay, where memory constraints are very important. So such cases we are going to use the performance parameters. Maybe what exactly the performance parameters, likely your the functional requirements, non-functional requirements. Non-functional requirements will exactly come under the performance. Whenever you are going to define the performance of one particular the device, so the reliability is very important, security is very important, and robustness is very important. So all the attributes will define the performance testing. All the performance metrics what you are going to define for one system or one software, whether it meets properly or not, whether it completes all the user needs without deviating, without deteriorating their particular performance of the entire system, what we call the performance system. It is also part of release testing. It may involve testing the emergent properties of the system. That is, emergent properties means speed. Maybe it is a bandwidth. Maybe it is the mean time to failure, mean time to recover. Okay, and so for every device there is a mean time to recover and mean time to failure. It should be assigned by the company, by the standard, that it should be properly maintained. That is one of the performance metrics which is assigned by some central authority. Tests should reflect the profile of the use of the system. Performance tests usually involve planning a series of tests where the load is steadily increased until the system performance becomes unacceptable. For example, you can take a mobile network, you can take a mobile service provider, there is a maximum for 1 second, 250 calls they can easily manage. Okay, whenever it is going to be beyond that 250, how system is going to maintain. For example, when it is exceeding 250 calls, when user is going to call, okay, what it is going to do, how it is going to manage. Maybe they are going to connect it to the cross connection they are going to do. So still, whenever it exceeds 250 calls, even system is still stable. That stability we are going to check our problem is solved by performance testing. One of the responsibility of the performance testing is to check the system feasibility even after exceeding all the limits. Okay, whether how it is going to behave, how it is going to behave for the user inputs. That is what we call the performance testing. And one more, the main responsibility of the performance testing, even we are going to check for the incorrect inputs, how system is going to behave, how it is going to produce the warning messages, exceptions,
That is also one of the point which is covered under the performance testing. And stress testing is a form of performance testing where the system is deliberately overloaded to test its failure behavior. So already I told mean time to failure. Okay, and we are going to categorize the number of activities will come in one particular system. Maybe A, B, C, D are the 4 activities. So which activity is the dominant, okay, among those 4 activities? Maybe A activity is the 90% it leads in all the activities. Maybe B is the 10% of the activity. C, D 5%. So within 100%, okay, these all activities are going to share their workload. So depending on the workload, so we are going to carry out that particular the testing criteria, testing strategies we are going to make under the performance testing. So these are some of the points regarding about performance testing, like in hardware, automobile and mechanical engineering. So in all the cases, and even in embedded systems, performance testing play a very important role in testing process, and it is the one of the best methods for agile approach. And so usually the one of the performance testing which covers emergent properties. Whenever you are going to define whether your particular non-functional requirements we are going to check, performance testing is a very important. In quality of service ISO standard, also some of the quality guidelines they are going to involve in performance testing. So next will come the last type of testing. It is what we call user testing. And user testing means user or customer testing is a very important thing. See, once the requirement engineering is done, the next one is system design is done. After implementation process, it should be complete. After that, after testing activities, the user testing is a very important. So before going to hand over any one particular product into the to the customers, the customer feedback is very important. They have to check their particular the product, whether whatever the developer what he has designed, whether it is going to correctly active in their particular environment or not. That we are going to check, based on the user input. And there are 2 types of product, and you people are studying in the first chapter. One is a generic product, second one is customized product. But the user testing is completely, it is customized. For the customized environment, when the one particular product is only, it is implemented for some particular type of customers. That is what we call it is a customized product. The one particular, the product is commissioned by the group of customers. That is main important points under the user testing. User testing, user or customer testing is a stage in the testing process in which user or customers provide input and advice on system testing. User testing is a very essential part. Even when the comprehensive system and release testing have been carried out, and even we are going to schedule the testing activities for the user, and it is also 70% of the testing is done by company itself. Company, developers, testers, they are going to use their various methods in their particular standards they are going to carry out. But what we call when 30% of the testing is done by the customer, even end user, they are going to test. So there are some of the criteria we are going to use while we are going to perform a user testing. It is very important to the system developer to replicate the system working environment, and developer environment is artificial data we are going to produce by using, for example, if we want to produce a college software, first we are going to produce some artificial data. DHI is our college software. All the faculties, we are the user. We are going to use some artificial data, and we are going to check all the possibilities for marks checking, mark scoring, internal assessments, for C exams. So what particular tendency, what all the requirements are satisfied or not by using directly user data or user data samples, we are going to check that particular process. That is what user testing. There are 3 types. One is alpha testing. Alpha testing is for the general market, not for the customized product. For the generalized product, so means the group of people, irrespective of their the tendencies, their particular, the only one particular product is only made for general market. It is not implemented or is not designed for one particular community of the customer. For example, systems, standalone systems you can take, and you can take some of the electronic components. That is what we called the alpha testing is the most relevant for such type of what we called product. Beta testing is completely customized. It is only commissioned by some group of community of the customers. You can take college software. It is not mandatory for all the public. It is only for mandatory for the those for the college users, maybe faculties will come, students will come. What is their mandatory use under that beta testing? Acceptance testing, the next one. So beta testing is the release of the software is made available to the user to allow them to experiment and to raise problems that they discover with the system developers. There are plenty of examples. You can take a hospital management system, hotel management system, and they have their own personal customers community. Those they are going to check their particular data. You can take online booking system. First we are going to simulate the data according to the online booking. Okay, date of arrival, date of something. Whenever you want to buy some product, what particular data we are going to transfer. That particular data is going to simulate to the system, and we are going to transfer. We are going to check input, correct input, and the output, the process. The last one is acceptance testing. Customer tests a system to decide whether or not it is ready to be accepted from the system developers and deployed in the customer environment. Primarily for custom systems, see this is the acceptance testing process. First we are going, so these are the 6 steps are very important. So this is a very last topic in this particular chapter. First we are going to define acceptance criteria. Okay, whenever the customer want to check one particular system, what acceptance criteria they are going to use. Plan acceptance testing, we are going to plan. Next, what type of testing method we are going to use. Derive acceptance test, then you run it and run acceptance test. Negotiate the test result, accept or reject system. And in the initial first, so these are the 5 stages will come. These 5 stages they are going to connect 6 criteria. First one is test criteria. Test criteria means what particular criteria we are going to use, we are going to adopt. Test plan, what particular plan we are going to use, maybe it is a manual, maybe it is an agile, and again then test, how we are going to test, and after that test results, what it is going to produce, whether actual test cases, what you are going to produce, whether they are going to match or not. If they are perfectly matching, no need of negotiate, otherwise you are going to negotiate your test result and accept or reject the system. This is what we call the actual methodology, what we people are going to use in the acceptance testing, the process. The first one is define acceptance criteria. Here inherent part of the customs, what they are according to the acceptance criteria. Maybe acceptance criteria is going to different from one domain to another domain. Maybe college software, the acceptance criteria is different. Maybe a hospital management system, it is different. E-commerce applications, the criteria, what type of the data what we are going to simulate, data set, that it is going to different from one domain to another domain. That particular criteria we are going to adopt when we are going to perform some of the testing activities. Text plan acceptance testing. How to plan? Maybe for agile approach, you can take the automation testing is a very good tool. Maybe there are like J tool we are going to use, Selenium for web-based application. That kind of acceptance testing we have to plan for the customers. Maybe for the plan-driven approach, you can take embedded systems and some of the systems, the manual methods are the more relevant. Then derive the acceptance test. And then you are going to design, once the requirements are fixed, next we people are going to list out all the acceptance test cases. What test cases we are going to design or what we are going to check, that plan we need to do it. Next, run acceptance test in the running environment, execution environment. In the real time, we are going to run with respect to the customers. Customers, they are going to simulate their data to the system, and next we are going to compare the actual results and test cases results. Whether they are going to match, it is a yes, the overall system is properly it is behaved. Otherwise, if completely it is passed, even though you have to check some exceptions, that is what we call run acceptance test. Negotiate test results. Then you are going to negotiate with some of the results, whatever you are going to produce. Finally, we will come to the conclude whether we are going to reject or accept test cases. So this is what some of the steps what we are going to mandate in agile methods and acceptance testing. In agile method, the user and customer is a part of the development team, is responsible for making decision on the acceptability of the system. This is what, so that's why the customer and the developer, they are going to club, they are going to coordinate, and customer is part of the some of the agile testing team, and they are going to interactively, parallelly, okay, once the development is done, parallelly customer, they are going to check their requirements are completely fulfilled or not. So these type of practices we are going to carry out in the software testing, the process. And this is your 5th unit is over, and all the syllabus, whatever is related to with respect to your software engineering for this academic year is over with this particular topic. So all the topics which are covered, and from the exam point of view, whatever the topics what we are going to capture, that is also tell to you people. And so these are the 5 units. It will be 4 the syllabus. And thank you everyone. And just you go to your some of the previous year question papers, and whatever the topics what we have stressed in the regular classes, that you have to capture. This is also very important point, and problems are very important in this particular testing approach. The problems on equivalence partition, whatever the problems what I have covered today and the previous class. So these are also very important. Similar kind of problems you may get, like requirement based engineering process and unit testing. According to the partition, what problems what I have solved. So these are available on your importance, the classroom lecture capture website. There you go it, and all the slides which are attached to your particular presentation, okay, and which contains some extra materials, whatever I covered in the class, all the materials are attached with that particular PPT presentation. You just go it, okay, and all the best for your final exam, and do well. That's it.